Hey everybody! So the NHL trading deadline has come and gone, and I'll go over the results. I'm going to try to give my thoughts on the trades if I can. I don't know some of these guys. I don't really know, so I'm not going to give any opinions on how they play and all that if I don't know. But where I can, I'm going to comment and go over the trades. So that's all right here at Talking Habs, the home of Habs hockey, where everything's dedicated to the Habs and all things hockey. So I do some NHL videos, and it's the trade deadline, and Montreal definitely was involved with a couple of deals. So we're going to get right to that. So if you want to see more videos like this, and you're either a Habs fan or just an NHL fan, head down there and subscribe and ring the notifications bell, and that's going to get you your daily fix of videos from Talking Habs. And while you're on the way down there to do that, if you like the video, give a thumbs up. And any comments you may have about the trades, any trade that I mention, anything, you do that in the comment section down there. Really appreciate that, and I do read all my comments. Okay, so I'm going to just take a second, and I am going to get set up. Okay, so the deals started to roll in. I would say about 10 or 11 o'clock before there was, or maybe even noon. I feel like I was on the air. So about 11 o'clock, and the deal started to roll in. So I'll take it from where my last video before the trade deadline was the Ilya Kovalchuk to Washington. I did that one. So I don't know how long after that, but it was at night, sometime late at night, a little bit late at night, anyways. Edmonton and Detroit made a deal. Edmonton sent Kyle Brodziak and a conditional fourth round pick to the Detroit Red Wings, who sent defenseman Mike Green back to Edmonton. Now I saw an interview, I guess it was on Tim and Sid, with Holland, Ken Holland, the GM, and he said he's a rental. So I don't think they're looking to re-sign him in the offseason necessarily anyway, but he's a rental. He's a player that Holland knows because he's from Detroit. Holland used to be the GM of Detroit, and he's going to help them in their hopeful push either into the playoffs or definitely through as far as they can go in the playoffs. So I think it was a good deal for Edmonton. They needed defensive help. There's no doubt about that. And it's Green is a guy that he's a good, solid defenseman, and Holland knows him, so he knows what he's getting. And going back, I don't know much about Brodziak, and it's a conditional fourth round pick. I have no idea what the condition is. Does it say? Didn't say here. So I think it's a good deal all around. Why not? And like I said, Edmonton needed the defensive help. Colorado this morning, the first one of this morning, Colorado acquired Vladislav Nemesnikov. He's a forward from the Ottawa Senators. In exchange for a 2021 fourth round pick. Nemesnikov should definitely help Colorado as far as depth. He can also score put a few points in. I think he's got something like 25 or 26 points in 50 odd games. So he's good depth scoring to have. Mikko Rantanen is out, so he'll definitely help until they can. I don't think he can replace Mikko Rantanen, but I mean, like I said, his depth and he can fill in when they need him. So I think that was a good deal, definitely for Colorado. I was a little surprised. I thought that would have fetched a little bit more, or at least a draft pick from 2020. So I was just a little surprised in that. Next one up was a big one, actually, was involving Ottawa again. Ottawa sent Jean-Gabriel Pageau to the Islanders in exchange for three things: a 2020 conditional first-round pick, and the condition is that if it's a first, second, or third pick, it's lottery protected, so the first pick would go to a 2021 pick. They gave a 2020 second-round pick and a 2022 conditional third round pick. And the condition on that is that if New York Islanders win the Cup this year, and it's based on 2020 only, then they would get that pick. If not, they don't get that pick. Then the next one up was another big one. Involved the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes acquired Vincent Trocheck. I believe he's a center from the Panthers, and in exchange they gave forward Eric Haula, forward Lucas Walmark, and two prospects. One of them is Eetu Luostarinen. I just butchered that. He's a forward, and defenseman Chase Prisky. So I think that's a good move for Hurricanes. They get definitely some depth. I don't know how bad they are. It's that they need centers that bad. I don't know if that's the case. But Trocheck's a good player. He'll get you 40 odd points a season. I think for Carolina, who's looking to cement that wild card spot and do well in the playoffs, a good move. And for the Panthers, who are looking to I think Toronto is 2 points ahead of them, so they want to catch Toronto and go past them and hold on to the third spot in the Atlantic Division. Because in the Atlantic Division, I think you're going to need that third spot to make the playoffs. You're not going to get a wild card out of the Atlantic Division. So I think it's a good move for them. They get two pieces that help them um, down the stretch to overtake the Leafs. And I think the Leafs didn't do anything in this draft, so I don't think the Leafs are going to hang on to that spot. Next up is Montreal. Montreal sent Nate Thompson to Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for a 2021 fifth round pick. I think this is a good deal for both teams. Thompson is definitely a good fourth line center in that he wins faceoffs. He can play and almost anywhere in a fill-in role for a game or two. He could play even the first line. He did it. He did it here in Montreal. I think twice this year. He's just a good guy to have around. A lot of experience. He's 35, but he doesn't play like a 35-year-old as far as energy. So I think it's a good move for Philadelphia. And for Montreal, look, they weren't going to re-sign Thompson next season, I didn't think at all. I don't think there was much chance. So they got something back for him in that draft pick, and I think that's a good deal. Yeah, even if you're a Montreal fan and say it's not enough, I think it was enough. I mean, what did you expect to get back for Nate Thompson? He wasn't going to get a second or a first round pick, that's for sure. So I think they did well with that pick that they got. All right. So next up, Pittsburgh Penguins get Patrick Marleau from the San Jose Sharks, and they give up a 2021 third round pick. The third round pick could become a second rounder if Pittsburgh Penguins win the Stanley Cup this season. So it's a possibility, but more than likely it'll be a third round pick. But hey, listen, Pittsburgh could win. You never know. Toronto made a huge move. Toronto sent Michael Hutchinson, the goalie, to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for defenseman Calle Rosen, who played in Toronto before. It's not what Toronto really needs, but it's a move. I don't know if it's going to help them that much or not. So I don't know what they did. They got rid of Hutchinson. They just had picked up Jack Campbell, so they didn't need Hutchinson anymore. And Hutchinson goes over to Colorado. I guess Grubauer is, I think, injured right now, so he'll probably back up Francouz, however you pronounce that. Next up, Philadelphia Flyers acquire forward Derek Grant from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for forward Kyle Crisciullo and a 2020 fourth round pick. I don't know anything about Crisciullo. Derek Grant, from what I understand, he's a decent third or fourth liner. He can get you, I think he's currently got like 14 goals. He's on a career high. So, he can put in a few points when needed. And I guess it's a good depth move for Philadelphia. And for Anaheim, they get another pick. I don't know anything about Crisciullo, so that's all I know. Next up, New Jersey Devils send forward Wayne Simons to Buffalo Sabres for a conditional 2021 fifth round pick. The fifth round pick can turn into a fourth rounder if the Sabres make the playoffs and Simons plays 10 games. Devils retain 50% of Simons' $5 million salary cap hit. So it's a confusing move for me, but I guess it signals that Buffalo probably still thinks they have a chance. And I guess if you're a Montreal fan and think that they still have a chance, I don't really think they do anymore. I'm rooting for them, but I don't think they do anymore. But if you're of that mind, well, then so is Buffalo for themselves. And listen, they got 2 games in hand on Montreal, and they got the same number of points. So if anything, they should have a little more hope than Montreal does. So they made this trade for Simons. It's a good move for them. He can't hurt them. He can play third line, big guy, can put some points on the board when needed. And they gave up a fifth round. It's nothing. I think that's a good move. I guess I didn't think they would be buyers at all. Next up, Boston Bruins acquire forward Nick Ritchie from the Ducks for forward Danton Heinen. I don't know a lot about either of these two players, so I don't think I'm going to comment on that. Montreal Canadiens are next up. They made a minor trade with the Ottawa Senators. They sent forward Matt Pekka to Ottawa in exchange for forward Aaron Luchuk and a 2020 seventh round pick. I don't know much about Luchuk, but for me, that seventh round pick stands out. Montreal's been making some really good picks in the seventh round. That's where Caden Primo came from. That's where I want to say Jake Evans, but I'm not sure if it's Jake Evans. But they had another one that's a seventh rounder. And this last draft, they got Harvey Pinard, Raphael Harvey Pinard in the seventh round. I like that kid. I think that kid is going to be good. And I think that's where they got that seventh rounder that they're going to use to find somebody special, or at least hope to. So I find that interesting. Next up, Edmonton making another move with Detroit. So Edmonton acquires speedy forward Andreas Athanasiou and forward Ryan Kuffner, who I know nothing about, in exchange for forward Sam Gagner. Excuse me. And a 2020 second round pick and a 2021 second round pick. Good move by Edmonton. Athanasiou is a very speedy guy. Not really known for his defense, but that shouldn't matter in Edmonton. Not a big point getter, but I think maybe playing with McDavid, who should be able to keep up with because he's really fast. I think his points can go up. His big concern would be his minus 45, playing on a really, really bad team. Don't expect it would be the same kind of minus in Edmonton, but it might be still a concern because it probably would be a minus. So that would be the concern there. But like I said, he's not known for his defense. Next up is another Edmonton deal. Edmonton and Ottawa. Edmonton acquires forward Tyler Ennis for a 2021 fifth round pick. I think that's a good move for Edmonton, and Ennis can fill in. I think almost anywhere for short periods. He can put up some points when needed. I think he's got 14 goals or something like that right now, and 33 points, something like that. And I think it's a good move for Edmonton. He's a guy who can play almost anywhere. They need wingers. He's a winger. He's experienced. I imagine he's a rental, and I think it's a good move for them. I think that's what he said, Holland, that Ennis also was a rental. Athanasiou was a guy that they're planning to move forward with and sign him to a contract. Next up, Calgary Flames acquire defenseman Derek Forbort, who I know nothing about, in exchange for, and that's from the LA Kings, in exchange for a conditional 2021 fourth round pick. They don't say what the conditions are. Next up, Buffalo and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh acquires Connor Sheary and Evan Rodriguez, both forwards. I think Sheary might have played in Pittsburgh before. I'm not positive. In exchange for injury prone, maybe a bit, or coming off an injury, Dominic Cahoon, having injury problems this season, something like that. He's also a forward. So again, is that a buyer or a seller? No, that's actually a hockey trade because you see two guys go for one guy with no contracts or draft picks involved. I don't know. I don't know much about these guys to know who won there, but I'll just report it. Next one up, I don't know who this guy is. Florida and Dallas make a trade. Florida acquires defenseman Emil Juice, I guess that's how you say it, for a 2020 sixth round pick, which was Buffalo's pick that I guess they acquired in a different trade. I don't know anything about this guy Juice, and it's a sixth round pick, so I don't know how important that deal is. Carolina Hurricanes acquire defenseman Sami Vatanen from the New Jersey Devils in exchange for Yanni Kuokkanen and defenseman Frederick Claesson and a conditional 2020 fourth round pick. New Jersey will retain 50% of Vatanen's salary in the transaction. No idea what the conditions are. I think it's a good deal for Hurricanes. Vatanen is a good player. They just shore up their defense for that run into the playoffs. And they don't give up that much from what I can tell. So I think that's a good deal for Carolina. Other than that, I don't know a lot about these guys. Here's a good deal for Vegas Golden Knights. I think this was a pretty good deal. Vegas Golden Knights acquire goalie Robin Lehner from the Chicago Blackhawks. So you have a tandem now of Fleury and Lehner in Las Vegas. I think that's going to be a hell of a tandem.
In return, they Blackhawks get goalie Malcolm Subban, defenseman Slava Demin, and a 2020 second-round pick, which they got from Pittsburgh. Subban, there has been rumors that they're not happy with Subban, so there you go. They traded him to Chicago. Chicago not going to be able to make the playoffs, so I guess they're moving a contract. I think Lehner was only signed for the 1 year, so Vegas is going to have to sign Lehner. I believe that he was only signed for the 1 year. So I don't know anything about the I don't Demon, and the other draft pick is a draft pick. So there you go. Columbus Blue Jackets acquire forward Devin Shore from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for forward Sonny Milano. I don't know that much about them, but I've been able to learn a little bit. Is that Milano has been a player that has been wanting to get out of Columbus, or should have gotten out of Columbus a while back, and he's out and he's in Anaheim, and I don't know much else about these guys. Carolina Hurricanes, I know this was like a last minute one. They picked up defenseman Brady Shea from the New York Rangers in exchange for a 2020 first round pick. So a steep price. Shea's pretty good, but I don't know if he's worth a first rounder. I don't really know enough, but I mean, that's a good deal for Carolina. Loading up on defense. They must be really loaded on defense, but you do need a good 8 good defensemen, NHL defensemen, if you want to make a good sustained run into the playoffs. Carolina will have the option of deciding which of their own or Toronto Maple Leafs first round picks they give to New York before the draft. Okay, so that's interesting. The Vancouver Canucks have acquired goalie Louis Domingue from the New Jersey Devils in exchange for goalie Zane McIntyre. Domingue will back up Demko. I don't know Demko's first name because Jacob Markstrom is injured and will be out for 3 to 4 weeks. Domingue is they had just cleared him. The Devils had put him through waivers, so that means that Vancouver, if they want to put him in the minors at any particular point, they don't have to worry about him clearing waivers. He's already cleared. He'd have to play 9 games or 10 games to have to clear again, and I doubt he'll play 10 games in Vancouver to end the season. I think there's only 20 odd games left. He's not playing 10. San Jose Sharks and Tampa Bay Lightning made a trade that I think was an overpayment by the Lightning for sure. They acquired Barclay Goodrow from the Sharks and a 2020 third round pick that the Sharks had acquired from Philadelphia. In exchange, they gave forward Anthony Greco, who I know absolutely nothing about, and a 2020 first round pick. Now I get it; it's Tampa Bay; it's going to be a very high at the end of the round pick. I get that, but still, that's a bit of an overpayment for Barclay Goodrow. But then again, as I'm reading this to you now, the first I'm seeing about the third round pick. So maybe that is why they did that. So next up is Nashville Predators, excuse me, acquire Corbinian Holzer from the Anaheim Ducks for defenseman Matt Irwin and the 2022 sixth round pick. I don't know enough about those guys to really comment on it. I'm just going to take a break to take a drink. This is the final video after a long day of videos and talking. That's why my voice is really bad. So let's continue on. The Anaheim Ducks also acquired defenseman Christian Juice from the Washington Capitals in exchange for forward Daniel Sprong. I know nothing about both of those guys, so I'm not going to talk much. And then the Montreal Canadiens sent forward Nick Cousins to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for a 2021 fourth round pick. Apparently, now I heard this after, when was it? Maybe an hour before I'm doing this video, that apparently Nick Cousins might have turned down a contract, and that's why they traded him. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense because he's an RFA at the end of the season, so he's not a UFA. So if they had offered him a contract and he didn't really want it, they didn't have to trade him. They could have hung on to him and negotiated through the summer and even longer because he's an RFA. So I don't know if that's really true, but they traded Cousins, and I had said that they would probably trade Cousins, and they did. Cousins did a good job here. He should do well in Vegas. I wouldn't see why not. And they're loading up for a playoff run. Next up, the Arizona Coyotes acquired forward Marcus Hannikainen. Hannikainen, I guess he's another. The Finns have some hard names to pronounce. The Columbus Blue Jackets were the other partner in the trade, and they got a conditional 2020 7th round pick. So I don't know if he's much of a. He's not much of a star anyway if he's only getting a 7th round pick back. Philadelphia Flyers get forward Nathan Noel, who I know nothing about, for defenseman TJ Brennan over to Chicago. Know nothing about that. Calgary Flames acquire Eric Gustafson in exchange for a 2020 third round pick to Chicago. Chicago will receive the earlier of Calgary Flames 2 third-round picks in the 2020 draft. A surprise to me that Eric Gustafson went for as little as a third-round pick. I would think that Montreal should have been in on that, and maybe they were. I don't know, but Gustafson could have been. I think anyway, going into the season, a top 4 defenseman on the left side. I'm surprised they didn't try to get him. Maybe they did. I don't know. So that's just a weird one for me that way. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquired forward Matt Laredo, who I know nothing about, from the New York Islanders in exchange for defenseman Jordan Schmaltz. Know nothing about either of those guys. Doesn't seem like it's an important deal. The Vegas Golden Knights acquired Martins Zirkles from the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for a 2020 5th round pick, and it's their own pick. So Vegas's pick, so it's not from another team. The Toronto Maple Leafs will retain a portion of goalie Robin Lehner's contract as part of a 3-team trade with the Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, I saw this. I don't understand this. I don't know how to explain this, how that happened, and I'm not going to try. Edmonton Oilers acquired goalie Angus Redmond, who I know nothing about, and a conditional 2022 7th round pick in exchange for defenseman Joel Person, who I know nothing about, and that's with Anaheim Mighty Ducks. That's all I can tell you. And I think finally, San Jose Sharks acquired defenseman Brandon Davidson from the Calgary Flames in exchange for future considerations. So I also heard there is a trade for from Minnesota. What's his name? Parise. But I haven't seen it anywhere. So is there really a trade? Minnesota trade Parise and his long contract and expensive contract? I don't know. It doesn't seem to be official. So I don't know where this is coming from. If anybody knows, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know where you heard that and whether it seems legit or not, because it doesn't seem to be. So that's the trades that seem to have been made. It's a long video. Sorry for that. I just wanted to go over them all. That's my opinions on where I can give an opinion and where I can't. So let me know in the comment section what you think of these trades, what you think of my opinions. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And while you're on the way down there to do the comment and the thumbs up, subscribe and ring the notifications bell if you want to see more videos like this from Talking Habs. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Really do appreciate it. Peace out, everybody. Finally, the trade deadline is over.